enshrined in law, by the way, enshrined in British law at that time, a slave had exactly the same status as a horse or as any other piece of chattel property. And it was defended, as empire usually is, on the grounds that the people doing the stealing were inherently superior to the people being stolen. We were more advanced. They were the savages. It's hard to believe now. But I'm reading a book, I've got it in my bag, by Piers Brendan, called The Fall of the British Empire. And so all these phrases are fresh in my mind. They were savages who had to be civilized. We had the right to be there because we could develop their resources better than they could. We could make their deserts bloom. We could, in our trade, drag them forward and upwards with us, but quite a bit behind, of course, in the caboose. This is the rhetoric in which empire used to be dressed, and was in fact exactly the rhetoric in which the colonial project of the Zionist state of Israel was born in the building in which I sit. This is important because nowadays it wears different garb. We're told by President Obama in Cairo, I had a better opinion of his speech than some, but we were told in his speech in Cairo that it was about the Holocaust. We're told by many Zionist proselytizers and agitators that it was a biblical thing, that God was somehow a real estate merchant who promised them this piece of land enshrined in the Old Testament, and therefore the rest of us should push off, because who will argue with God? Or the fanatical, evangelical Christian right in the United States, who constitute the vast majority of the pro-Israel forces in this country at this time. Well, they want all the Jews to go to Palestine, and they want a mighty battle to take place there, so that we can all get to heaven or hell more quickly. It's dressed up now in these kind of clothes. But that was not the proposition that was placed before the British Empire by the leaders of the actually then quite fledgling Zionist organizations before Mr. Arthur Balfour, the British Foreign Minister, who in an act brazen even by imperialist standards promised on behalf of one people to a second people the land which belonged to a third people. Actually, apart from California, unique. California, actually the Mexican people in California suffered something very similar. The Spanish government promised the American government the land which belonged to the Mexican government. But in Palestine, this was particularly brazen because, unlike the Spanish, we did not even possess Palestine in order to give it away, even in an imperialist sense. And why did we do so? Was it for a biblical reason? Clearly couldn't be because of the Holocaust. We gave it away because we wanted to create, and I quote, the British Colonial Office at the time, a little, loyal, Jewish Ulster in the Middle East. Ulster, for those who don't know, is a small part of the island of Ireland on which the British Empire planted its own citizens, a Protestant minority in the overwhelmingly Catholic island, in order to be an advance guard for, to be auxiliaries for, to be a fortress for British imperial interests in Ireland. And the Zionist leaders, well, they were in no doubt. They didn't quote the Bible because every one of them was an atheist. Every single one of the Zionist leadership who went to see Balfour that day were atheists. They said, everyone else has got a colony, why can't we? They said, we could make their desert bloom. They said, we are very advanced people, as indeed they were. The Jews in Europe in the late 19th and early 20th century were the advance guard of European civilization. Some of the most brilliant musicians, philosophers, scientists, engineers were to be found amongst European Jewry at that time. They said, we could make a colony. And by the way, we don't even mind where it is. They sat down with their maps in the British Colonial Office and discussed whether they could create their state of Israel in many different places in the world. Not a lot of people know that. They seriously discussed making their state in Uganda. They discussed making it in the Seychelles. They discussed making it in Patagonia. In short, they were ready to accept any suitable piece of land that would allow them to build a European colony, just like the European colonies in Africa and elsewhere. And so it is right to locate this question in the history of empire and of colonialism. This is not a religious conflict. It's absurd to suggest that we are against Jews. We're against colonialism. We were against it in South Africa under its apartheid state, and we're against it in Israel, Palestine, because of its apartheid state. It's as simple as that. How could anybody other than a racist lunatic be against Jews? This is a ridiculous proposition. Yet I saw on the internet today about this meeting that I was coming to, an anti-Semitic orgy of some kind. My meeting in Kansas later in the week, there's someone on the internet saying he's, and I quote him, saying he's a pumped up Jew, locked and loaded and ready to go to Kansas and kill me on the rostrum. On the basis, somehow, that we are against Jews. Look, the greatest of all Jews, Albert Einstein, the greatest mind of humanity, was invited to be the first president of Israel. And this is what he said: I could never be the president of a country whose future is built on the ruins of another people's past. I could never be the president of a country whose future happiness was built on the ongoing misery of others. We, in no sense, are against Jews. We are against Zionism.